Alright, real talk now. I just finished watching this movie, and the first thing that I had to ask myself was, have I just been trolled? Is Hollywood rage baiting now? Is that what they're doing? Was this a funny prank, bro?
Nice board, faggot. Yeah, that's right, it's just a prank, bro.
Because how do you take a game such as Silent Hill 2, okay, and you transform it into probably the worst horror movie that I've ever seen in my life? On its own demerits, by the way. It's not because it's tethered to Silent Hill 2. Seriously, without exaggeration. I think that's just the case. Holy shit, for the first time in my life, I had to get up from my seat and pace around the hallways outside to distract myself and make time go faster because of how boring it was. How do you score lower than fucking Silent Hill Revelation? How is this possible in this world? And it's the same director who made the first Silent Hill movie. Certainly the best video game adaptation into a movie that I've ever seen, even though it's not really that good of a movie in itself. Return to Silent Hill has everything that's wrong with any kind of horror movie, from flamboyant special effects in place of tension building and atmosphere. It has cheap shock value gore and other disgusting meaningless stuff. It's chock full of member berries, both for old Silent Hill fans, tourists that hopped on board when the remake came out, and also member berries for the fans of the first movie. And the result is a jumbled mess that makes no sense whatsoever. So let's start from the beginning with the fact that James in this movie is just a dude, bro, who smokes weed, dude, or whatever the fuck this is. I don't know. I'm not a fucking crackhead or anything. I'm not an expert on drugs and fake dollar bills like our Saint George Droid and shit, alright? He's not the surly, introverted, aloof, maybe perhaps even a little bit autistic guy that we know from the original game. He feels closer to the remake's counterpart, more of a regular dude, just a, you know, a sympathetic everyman. But in this movie, it's even worse because he's just a fucking retard who uses drugs, gets himself into fights in bars right at the beginning. He wears all this jewelry on him, you know, just like every vapid motherfucker out there. He drives a goddamn Ferrari, dude. Love to show off. You know exactly how we remember him, yo. Shit, man. And so he meets Mary in Silent Hill. They haven't known each other before. They hit it off right there.
Excuse me, what's your name? Mary. Nice to meet you. Fuck you. Fuck you, fucking whore.
She dresses like a Stacy. Show a little more skin and she could be playing Maria. Out of character for Mary, who's always dressed very conservatively. But this is the way the world is now, dude. You gotta appeal to the modern audiences. No one wants to see a woman dressed traditionally anymore. But yeah, time skip to the present, and James is at the bathroom doing the same pose from the remake. Already starting off wrong, taking inspiration from the remake instead of the original game. As some soulless Hollywood director would, because when do they ever know what the fuck they're doing? And we gotta, of course, have our token, Shaniqua, our queen, who's James's female therapist. Because that helps, right? Always helps in these cases. Be a good boy, do your therapy, tell all about yourself to some random stranger who doesn't give a shit about you and only tries to make you feel better and affirm you instead of actually trying to help you solve your problems. But of course, Rochelle here is portrayed as the voice of reason throughout this movie. James is just insane. He's going crazy because Mary died, and he's just out of control. He keeps going away, getting himself in trouble. So our big beautiful queen here has to put him back on track because the white man doesn't know any better. Never. Now I could go over some of the details in this movie, like how rain is a bad sign. It's a sign of the other world approaching, even though that was only a thing in the first game of the franchise until the remake came along, trying to cater to the fans of the first game and turn the the other world into just the first game's version of it, with the rain and all. It's the same thing here. And also, of course they changed Mary's letter because the game's version is just not good enough for these pretentious fuckwits. They have to change everything. They have to make it dumber. They have to take away all the soul from the text that Mary reads to James in the beginning of the game. But anyway, this movie, I knew it wasn't gonna work because Silent Hill are games where there aren't that many cutscenes. Most of the time, it's gameplay. You're just running around, fighting monsters, solving puzzles, finding where to go inside the fog. And so how do you translate that to a story that can be told in a movie? You don't. So what happens is 100% of the time in these cases is that you have to make up for it by making a silent movie where the main character is just walking around looking at stuff in awe as the camera focuses on stuff that's supposed to be important for the character, but for the audience it's completely meaningless, but it has to be there. And it turns into a carnival ride where the main character and us are made to watch as many attractions play out for us one after the other like this. It's all just a carnival ride to make the audience engaged because no one wants to watch some guy stumble around looking for keys to open locked doors. It would be extremely uneventful for a movie. They did this shit in the remake. I know because I played it, much to my disappointment. And in that game, when the other world kicks in, it's also the same thing. It's a carnival ride full of stupid shit for you to look at that's supposed to look impressive because of the graphics, but it really doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be there. Like these bathtubs full of shit and the Indian toilets overflowing with poo-poo. And oh, look at these moths, dude. Isn't that cool? Look, it's raining indoors. That's so cool, dude. I know this video isn't about that shitty game. It's about this pathetic movie. But my point is, the seeds were planted all the way back then, and we see the rotten fruits now, as we saw with Silent Hill F, that piece of shit game, and now with this. After these silly precedents are set, things always get worse. Don't fool yourself. Just as I knew, because of the remake, that the next Silent Hill games would double down on the Dark Souls dodge iframe formula with rote memorization of attack patterns from enemies. That shit began in the remake and they just tripled down in F. But anyway, Angela is introduced. She's a complete nutjob. James just goes along with what she tells him to do, even though they don't know each other and she looks like a complete crackhead. But he just goes along with it for some reason.
Grab my bag. What? Careful. They're heavy.
Holy shit, nobody does this. Nobody in their right mind would do this. Now, you might say James is insane, but the game's version of James is also mentally afflicted, and even he has some semblance of self-awareness. In this movie's case, it's just shit writing, direction, and acting. It's not how they act. They act odd in the games as well, but it's the actions they decide to take that make no sense in this movie. Now, naturally, they threw back again with this thing that the town was engulfed in flames because, you know, Centralia, so there's ash raining down again, just like in the first movie. They decided to double down on this fabrication. In Silent Hill 1, there's none of this. It's actually snowing outside. It has nothing to do with underground fires or anything of the sort that the writer for that movie decided to hallucinate, because he just has to change these things, man. Why? I don't know. But there's a shit ton of people to this day that believe that Silent Hill 1 is about the ash thing and the burning coal mines thing. My god. Not to mention that the CGI for these ashes looks like complete dog shit. They abused CGI in here. At least in the first movie, there were a lot of practical effects like Pyramid Head and this monster here, which actually looks kinda good. But in this new movie, no, it's all CGI. And it's so bad, it's so artificial. James goes into town, and then he goes into that tunnel, even though he has no real reason to go there. He's not chasing after a monster this time around. In there, he finds a fucking hobo, because that's what's scary about Silent Hill, right? The fact that there are always lots of people around keeping you company, making sure that you'll never feel completely alone in a desolate place and helpless. You know, no. The horror comes from the feeling of having people around all the time, right? James starts panicking, even though there's no reason to panic yet. I know this is a weird situation, but he hasn't been attacked yet or anything. So, more things that take me away from the movie. Then he fights the monster. It melts the fucking hobo's face off, because gotta show the gore in its full detail, because that's what Silent Hill is all about, dude. It's not about subtlety. It's about special effects. Oh, and Lashikwa, of course, can just call James to just see what's going on at any time she wants. Remember how Team Silent went all the way to make sure that you feel absolutely isolated from civilization right at the beginning of the game by making you run down that long trail to Silent Hill? Well, here, James has a phone he can use to call for help at any time, like a Metal Gear codec buddy. And so there's nothing to fear, really. And then the Otherworld transition. It's a complete fanfare of special effects, loud noises, disgusting shit in your face. They got the aesthetic wrong. Once again, they think of the Otherworld as just grunge industrial town. It's not just that, but it's impossible for these people to think for 5 seconds. And of course, before that happened, there was an emergency transmission on the radio telling everyone to escape, because especially in Silent Hill 2, that's exactly how it happens, right? It is a large-scale phenomenon that everyone is experiencing. So it's like the end of the world scenario.
Fuck this shit. Oh, no, you didn't, you motherfucking piece of shit cocksucker.
Of course it's not like that, especially in Silent Hill 2, which is a very personal journey where the cult is not at the moment active. There is no deity trying to be revived, which would turn the city into this large-scale pandemonium. Everyone is experiencing their other world pretty much individually, but you don't need to know anything about Silent Hill to make a movie, and it's not like Konami fucking cares or ever cared anyway, even though a lot of people were duped into thinking they were redeemed because of the shitty remake. God, we get some more member berries, dude. The street names, they got it right. Oh no, that means they know everything. That means they're really passionate about the games, dude, and they know what they're doing, right? James goes into the hotel and starts having a seizure, showing how he's nothing but an insane guy in this movie, with no subtlety at all. And obviously, this is just a fever dream situation, like every other psychological horror movie and every psychological horror video game that's not the original Silent Hill games are. Because that's what psychological horror means, right? It's just horror about the main character's psychology. No, that's not what it fucking means. But I don't know, I guess you'd have to have an IQ over 90 to understand that, which is asking too much from these Hollywood people and the new fanboys of the series, and some old ones as well, unfortunately. Now in this scene, I would praise this movie for this creepy visual, but who the fuck cares at this point? This movie is so bad, nothing can salvage it. James climbs up there and finds the mannequin, you know, the one that has Mary's dress, and because this movie is so very subtle, so much more subtle than the original games, of course it tells us explicitly, right in our face, what that dress represents. So remember how I said that this movie had to rely on giving member berries to people who watched the first movie, you know, people who never even bother playing the games, normies. And so the result is that it's all over the place this time around? Well, turns out that the cult is involved in this movie, even though they were not involved in Silent Hill 2 at all. It turns out Mary is part of this cult. Her father apparently was like an important guy in Silent Hill. He built the whole town. So in this movie, they're basically turning Mary into Alessa, even though we already have an Alessa in the movie continuity. This director is the most incompetent fuck. He cannot try to do something new. He'd rather ruin the entire fucking lore than risk doing something different from the first movie, which was successful. And of course, everybody has to be a potty mouth, just like me, for Rio for Rio. That's such a cheap way to appeal to modern audiences, man. Anyway, they even changed Mary's last name. Does it hurt whenever these pretentious movie maker auteurs are faced with the possibility, this slim possibility of leaving the source material intact for a second? Does it hurt? Do they feel physical pain whenever they try to do so? Does it hurt to at least keep the names consistent? God. They destroyed the lore of Silent Hill 2 by making it so the town went through some disease, breakout, or some shit. And that's why everybody's dead. This makes no sense. This has nothing to do with the lore of the games. James meets Eddie, and he's just a fucking asshole. He's just this fat, hairy guy who's lost his mind and now wants to conquer Silent Hill. He wants to have the town all for himself.
Why would you stay here? The place is rid of all these assholes. Got the entire city to myself.
No!
The movie won't go in depth on any of these characters. They're just randos passing by to feed some bullshit to James and then go away. They're not really characters at all. The most butchered of them being Laura. Holy shit. Poor Laura, what have they done to her? She's been reduced to nothing but the stereotypical creepy little girl from every horror movie who talks in riddles and is just there to, I guess, try to make the audience uncomfortable. Laura was one of the most important characters in the original game. Now she's a soulless, shallow trope, just another monster. And what the fuck is this shit? What is this monster? Again, the demake ruining the fucking series. In retrospect, it was the game that introduced all these spider motifs, even though there's nothing about spiders in any of these characters' backstories that would make them manifest like this. So here, instead of the mannequins, we have this piece of shit. Pyramid Head shows up, beats the shit out of it in the most hilarious scene ever. Then both James and him start screaming as the other world fades away. This is such a piece of shit. This movie is rage bait. Hollywood's disgust for the goyim, for the regular peasants, has reached new levels, and they are now provoking you. James gets lost inside a maze. I don't even know what's happening anymore at this point. This is such a fever fucking dream. And then Maria appears out of nowhere, and their interaction is so very natural, dude. In the span of 40 seconds or so, this complete stranger that had been stalking James manages to convince him to let her go with him to the hospital, just because there's no chemistry, there's none of that banter that there was in the game. It's so jarring. Oh, what a wonder of cinema. They reach Brookhaven Hospital. I mean, just look at this. Look at the size of this thing. This is just a resort town, an isolated small little town, and yet it has this massive hospital that you would find, I don't know, in the middle of New York. So it's revealed that this cult was doing these fucked up rituals with Mary, and that's why she got sick, because of all the drugs that they made her take. It was all the cult's fault. We have yet another comical otherworld transition where James uses the roots spell on the floor. Dude, like, this is all coming from him, even though in this movie he's arguably less at blame for what happened to Mary. No, in fact, as we're about to see, he's pretty much blameless. So why in the fuck is he even going through any of this, man? But it's fine, because this movie has all of the references for all the original fans, like the blood coming out of the faucet, as Lisa describes. And we even have a little moment where Maria tries to be like Lisa and explain the lore of the town to James, just like Lisa did for Harry in the first game. It's pretty uncannily similar. We get pretty much the exact same fucking scene from the first movie, because this director is creatively and spiritually bankrupt. So instead of Pyramid Head killing Maria, one of the nurses stabs her, and she doesn't even die, by the way. James gets something from a cabinet, and that immediately cures a massive stab wound to the gut.
What the fuck were they thinking?
What in the fuck is going on? And who gives a shit what happens to this character? There were no establishment moments. The introduction was embarrassingly bad and abrupt. James just goes along with it. He doesn't remark on her appearance. There's none of that time that's needed to establish a connection to this character, so we would feel anything for her here. Oh my god. This was supposed to be the Flash Lips boss fight, right? What is this? What the fuck? What is this shit? What does this look like? It looks like the goddamn ghoul from Fallout. That other shitty TV series that I'm not gonna watch, even if you pay me. So at this point, James wakes up in a regular hospital room. Shaniqua comes to visit him. So they're really trying to do something here very similar to Jacob's Ladder and failing miserably at it. This movie is a goddamn fever dream that makes no sense whatsoever. And even if it did, it's not even worth looking for it. James kisses Maria and then goes all edgelord emo mode. Everybody screams, Pyramid Head impales Maria, who gives a shit? And then we see this. Oh my god, Pyramid Head is James. Oh no, what a tragedy. So much guilt, right? No way, dude. This is so subtle, dude. Can you be a little bit less subtle, please? We get a snippet of the Angela Abstract Daddy boss fight, but why? Why is that there? This movie makes no fucking sense. It has established that all these characters, Eddie, Laura, Maria, Mary, Angela, they're all a figment of James's imagination. They're not their own characters that are going through their own journey through Silent Hill, parallel to James. So what the fuck is this scene doing here? Then it is revealed that one day in the past, Mary just grows sick of her shitty life. She's too ill because of all the drugs the cult made her ingest. And so she just begs. She begs James to kill her, and so he does. There's none of that nuance like how in the original game she wanted to die, but at the end of the day she really didn't. She wanted to survive, so when James does kill her, she agonizes and panics like she doesn't really want to die. But in this scene, she begs him and she goes away in peace, pretty much. So there's no reason for all this guilt that this version of James is feeling. None of this is his fault. He wanted to take Mary and leave Silent Hill once he found out what the cult was doing to her, but she didn't want to go with him, and so he just left because she's a fucking crazy retard. So he's 0% in the wrong here. Certainly you find yourself guilty after killing someone, regardless of the reason, but it's not Silent Hill material this time. James is just depressed after all this. He's a super simp who can't live without her, and so he decides that the best ending is to act himself, the in-water ending. And after that happens, he just goes back in time to where it all began, probably riding the coattails of the loop theory that the D-Make made canon, by the way. So rejoice, D-Make Glazers. Your stupid fan theory that Bloober team decided to turn canonical, which takes all the meaning away from every other ending, and all of the debate that took place for decades about Silent Hill 2 is now all but confirmed and reinforced through this movie, which took heavy inspiration from the remake. Congratulations, we saw this shit coming a mile away. Now enjoy as this series gets ravaged once again, worse than it was after Silent Hill 4. You deserve it, motherfuckers. This movie is the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life. It's worse than the likes of amateurish found footage movies, and it feels even more amateurish than them, despite it being made by the same director who made an okay-ish video game adaptation in the past. So what the fuck even happened here? It's worse than Revelations, dog. This is the most mistreated series in the history of video games, and the fanboys deserve it. Let's be fucking honest. I don't even want to imagine what Pooper team is gonna do to the Silent Hill 1 remake, but it sure as hell is funny watching now as the fanboys squeal about this movie being dog shit. The same scumbags who couldn't have 1 ounce of integrity back in October of 2024, as if it was so hard to imagine that a franchise that's only alive, air quote, because they decided to skip ahead and milk the golden goose dry, would very soon begin to show massive cracks in this feeble structure that it was revived on. Congratulations to everyone involved. All your tears are illegitimate. You consumed the shit. You rewarded it. Now enjoy the consequences. You are all a giant locust swarm that roams from franchise to franchise, ruining everything in your wake. See you later, guys.